sir.
The song is over. I guess that means we're going live. Welcome in, everybody. Even if there's nobody. Because I'm here. I'm happy. I'm feeling good. And we're ready to go. All right. Tell my girlfriend I'm streaming real quick. And we're ready to go. Kestis? Fuck, what a movie. Ooh. Ooh. Ooh.
Luke got up and brushed off his lap of the settled, charred ash from the torches hung above. His organic left hand was left covered in a thin layer of soot that felt smooth between his fingers. Fingers. He opened the door to his hut and was welcomed by a big whiff of clean, fresh air that filled his lungs and mind with clarity. Down the hill, he could hear the gentle river flowing, unbothered by the sunlight up above. It was as if the river didn't even realize what it was passing by, rather, staying the course until it found its inevitable destination. The land was serene in its beauty. As majestic and picturesque as his eyes had ever seen. Growing up on such a desolate and repetitive planet like Tatooine, where the sand and the rocks and the hills and the desert all stretched around the entire circumference, Luke always dreamt of one day seeing such a tranquil sight. But never in his wildest dreams could he have fathomed the sheer magnitude of Ossus' unspoiled land. Which was a massive factor on why he ended up choosing this planet for his eventual academy. There were of course many different planets and even more locations that were up for consideration when it came time for starting his Jedi temple from essentially nothing. The first choice was of course Coruscant. Restoring the Jedi Order in its previous home was certainly a bold idea, but Luke felt like the galaxy wasn't quite ready for the return of the Jedi just yet. The jury was still out on them due to the decades of propaganda from the Empire's regime. Then the next idea was Yavin 4 due to its very strong, natural connection to the Force, but because it was on the Empire's radar throughout the Civil War and a bit too popular following the events of the Battle of Yavin, Luke decided against settling down on the gas planet's forest. He had even considered Tatooine for a brief moment, but then he put the Revnog away and got serious. After many back and forth discussions with New Republic leadership, the two planets up for consideration came down to Ossus and Dantooine. Both of which had direct lineage with the Jedi, Dantooine even having most of its original Jedi temple still standing. But Luke, along with the advice of his sister Leia, wanted something else. Something new. Something his. It was a new era, in the dawn of the New Republic. Plus it was much more practical for logistics getting to and from Ossus as the planet was right off of the Perlimian trade route. Luke did a slow complete circle turn to marvel in what he had erected out of nothing into a function, self-sufficient, and stable Jedi training academy. None of it could have ever been possible without the unrelenting support of Chancellor Mon Mothma and Senator Tai Lin Gar, who campaigned heavily in the Senate for the funding of the construction, which Luke sparingly even touched. He enlisted the usage of ant droids to construct the temple's structure, dozens of huts, and the 4 adjacent wings of the academy, a medical infirmary, a dining and rest hall, a large-scale barracks, and an indoor training dojo with an overseeing office that let him see down to the training grounds on the academy's exterior as well. The overall setup was more than impressive. It was perfectly set up for up to 70 students and 6 instructors. But at the moment, it was just him and Lika running things with the occasional appearance from a friend, or the weekly supply drop from the New Republic. The academy felt grand and at times overwhelming with only the 15 people there at the moment in such a massive, open, and magnificent space that they broke ground on. But Luke knew that the temple grounds would fill out nicely over time, as would the funding. As he walked down the stone walkway, he noticed to his right all of the 13 students seemingly enjoying a game of stickball using one of the wooden training sabers as a bat. He couldn't help but to smile and laugh at the ingenuity of the idea to play the game that he grew up playing on the sand with all of his friends. He always thought that that was where he got the foundations of his lightsaber fundamentals from. Luke finally made his way to the edge of the river and dropped down to his knees. They ached, as did most of his aging body. The many wars, the countless battles, the thousands of hours of training had really begun to catch up with him. He wasn't the Jedi he once was, but he was wiser and more composed than he ever was. That had to mean something, he hoped. He was tired, and often found himself down here at the river to give his tireless mind a rest every once in a while. As the sun beat down on him, he closed his eyes and let go of all of his stresses, all of his weight, all of his pressure. He just quietly breathed and listened to the way that the water splashed up against the rocks as it coursed down the stream, along with his feelings of doubt and uncertainty washed away. He reached out with his
What up, Freddy?
energy all around him.
How you doing, pal?
The gross beneath his knees breathing sighs of relief, the sun radiating warmth and peace, the water draining the runoff from the mountain rainfall, purifying the land in all
What
of
you
its
mean?
glory.
What is happening? Just typed some things over and just making sure that I didn't do any like typos or anything. So I listened to it while reading as it goes to make sure that there's no typos or grammatical errors before I continue on with the next bit.
Could fix it up real nice with a few custom modifications and flip it for a profit. Guess you'd never get that chance though.
Lost my spot.
He was tired, and often found himself down here at the river to give his tireless mind a rest every once in a while. As the sun beat down on him, he closed his eyes and let go of all of his stresses, all of his weight, all of his pressure. He just quietly breathed and listened to the way that the water splashed up against the rocks as it coursed down the stream, along with his feelings of doubt and uncertainty washed away. He reached out with his and felt the energy all around him.
Quietly breathed and listened to the way that the water splashed up against the rocks as it coursed down the stream. Washing away. He reached out with his feelings.
He energy all around him. The gross beneath his knees breathing sighs of relief, the sun radiating warmth and peace.
Yeah, so the reason why I do this is because I'll show you. So what I like to do, as opposed to typing things over directly, we'll tools voice typing, and then click to speak. And then we go, you know, welcome to the stream. How we doing? Hope everyone's having a good day. But I don't think a speeder bike would be practical here on Ossus. So you can see, like, it doesn't do grammar that well. So I listen back, and before I get too far into it, and then make some adjustments, make some changes. And I do need to... Why does it have an update every week? I think it's because the programmer for Firefox is like, let me keep bugs in the game. So loud. So loud. But yeah, that's what we're doing. It's a lot easier to voice type than it is to type. Tradicionally.
Peace, the water draining the runoff from the mountain rainfall, purifying the land in all of its glory. Luke felt his place in all of this. In front of him, the iridescent light, shining bright and whole, giving him the freedom to choose for himself and still choosing the right path. Behind him, the always present darkness of which he was aware was there and always would be, but only because he acknowledged its existence and continued to pursue beyond its grasp. And between it all, he knelt, still and in harmony with the force in perfect balance. Above him in the sky, a flock of birds flying about the trees, soaring and singing their sweet songs, giving peace and tranquility to all living beings roaming the land below. Beneath the water, fish swam up the current, darting past Luke and the invisible, yet undeniable aura that surrounded him. Luke honed his mind on a group of large boulders that had been resting on the floor of the river for over a millennia, and without even flinching a muscle, he raised up 5 of some of the greatest stones you'd ever seen 5 meters into the air above the waterline. With the simple ease of his mind and the connection to the world around him, Luke began spinning the stones in a circular axis. 19 years ago, when he wasn't aching and waking up with knee pain every morning, he could only move a small rock while having to exert every fiber of his being. But now, with the decades of training, dedication, and pure connection to the force he had established, Luke felt like he could move a mountain if he had to. His power had never been more in tune and focused ever before as it was there and then. His mind was at peace, his body felt, well, there were the occasional aches and stabbing pains, but what 37-year-old war veteran didn't have those? Most of all though, Luke truly believed that he was doing a good job like Ben Kenobi, Lor San Tekka, and Leia all tried continually convincing him of. It had been 10 long years of patience, failure, and persistence getting his new Jedi Academy rolling, but in the past 4 years he had learned so much about himself and what it truly means to be a Jedi. To serve the Force with humility, to protect life with compassion, and to choose to do what's right, even when it could cost everything. That's why when Ben Kenobi advised him to go and see his sister, he understood just how detached he had become from Luke Skywalker, the human being, as he grew more accustomed to being Grandmaster of the Jedi Order. He knew what he was giving up when he stepped up and took the reins of the Jedi, but he did not mean to lose such a big part of himself in the process. But watching his students take such strides in their growth, not just as Jedi, but as people too, it truly pushed Luke to want to continue to grow himself. 10 years ago, as an aspiring Jedi Master, Luke began to train his first ever student, a former member of the Jedi Order, Grogu. Despite their age being in the early to mid-50s, Grogu was merely a child, one that survived the genocide of the Jedi under the reign of Emperor Palpatine. The child was strong in the Force, without question. But they also had stronger connections and attachments to people in the outside world. Their nearly 2 years of training did not amount to much besides a general healing of Grogu's connection to the Force. When it came time for Luke to begin construction of his academy, he felt that Grogu and his attachments would serve as a distraction to potential class of dozens of students. Luke gave Grogu an ultimatum: either stay and follow the ways of the Jedi, or turn back now and return to his people. To Luke's ultimate dismay, Grogu opted for the latter and was promptly returned to his father. But not a day went by that Luke didn't think about that, and the mistakes he made handling Grogu's training. He was very pragmatic about it all. Going from waking up one day as a Jedi Master, to the next day just a guy with a famous last name, a lightsaber, and nothing to show for it. Luke felt like a complete and utter failure for not being able to get through to his student who had already been through so much just to get to him. It was humbling. It rocked him to his very core, and there Luke had a choice. A split path. One that he did not have the answers nor understanding of where to go. So he slowed down, and sat down on the soft dirt beneath him. The sounds of the outside winds blowing the trees and leaves all seemed to fade into a deep reverberating hum that felt like it was spinning around within his mind, calming him. After one deep breath, and then another, Luke realized that it wasn't like that anymore. He had friends everywhere. Mentors and colleagues all around him like Ahsoka Tano and Kyle Katarn, who consistently talked sense into him whenever his confidence waned. Ahsoka being the big sister that he never had, and Kyle, well, he was Kyle. And this class of students felt different. The rivalry between Ben and Nathan had colored nearly every lesson, the two of them pushing each other harder with every passing year. Their pace dragged the others along in their wake, forcing the whole class to sharpen just to keep up. Watching them now, Luke let himself feel a thread of optimism, real, though carefully held, that the two would one day soon be leading classes of their own. Just as long as their rivalry didn't burn the temple to the ground. But seeing them spending so much time together outside of class just showed how much the two really got along. Sure, there were only 13 students, but they still chose to spend time together. just like he and Biggs back home. Back when things were so much slower and simpler. Sometimes he yearned for Uncle Owen to lambaste him for screwing up the fastenings on the vaporizers in the South Bay. He longed to hear Aunt Bereuse singing while she cleaned the house or made lunch. He missed them a lot. And now, as he continued to mature and get on in both age and responsibility,
I am in the wrong room.
for the ways he would occasionally speak to his parents. It didn't help the fact that he was kept in the dark about his real parents, but that was no excuse. Which is why Ben Kenobi's confession of who his father really came as such a shock to his 19-year-old self-system, who had it ingrained into his mind that his father was merely a lowly spice freight navigator who got caught up with the wrong crowd. But oh, that could not have been further from the truth. No. Luke's parents were heroes. Padme Amidala, former queen and senator of Naboo, served with the ideals of peace, humanity, and fearlessness which were etched into each and every
Choose the former queen. See, I feel like I could tenfoldly expand upon here.
could fix it up real nice with Padme Amidala, former queen and senator of Naboo, served with the ideals of peace, humanity, and fearlessness which were etched into each and every action that she took for the people of the Republic. Shortly after the Battle of Jakku during the New Republic's transition back to reinstatement, Leia and he visited the Theed Royal Palace to celebrate the ushering in of the new era. The evening was organized by Naboo's reigning sitting senator, Pooja Naberry. A longtime friend of Leia, and unbeknownst to either of them for many years, they were actually cousins too. Yeah, the niece and children of Padme Amidala enjoyed a celebratory gathering of the late senator's honor. As Luke and Leia toured the extravagant palace, they were caught by surprise at some of the most captivating paintings of their mother in gorgeous dresses that of course Leia laid claim to. After all, she was always a princess at her core, no matter how much of a badass she truly was. As the two examined the paintings over the intercom, speakers played some snippets of their mother's senatorial speeches, her voice so warm and powerful, somehow exactly as Luke thought it would have sounded. That was Luke's truly happiest moment, and a time that felt like a total sigh of relief in the eye of the storm between all that had transpired in the Galactic Civil War and all that was suddenly about to be set in motion. Motion. This was a time that all the pressure, the burden of hope, the overwhelming grief, the moral uncertainty, the trauma of his father's fall, the echo chamber of his isolation, all of it was extinguished and made room for Luke to finally, after 5 years of the fight, he could finally be happy. It was a moment of reflection as much as it was a moment he had always dreamed about. He quickly understood how his father could love his mother so much. Going against the Jedi code, having a secret marriage and children for the sake of love, was something that he often found himself thinking about his sister, and he came as a byproduct of such love, but so too did the terrorizing reign of the Empire. But Luke could never solely blame his father for the fall of the Jedi and the establishment of the Empire, but he made sure not to become his father, but to become what his father should have been. And as he opened his eyes, the brightness of the high sun blinded him, and he had to raise his hand to block the light while he gingerly stood up to his feet. He must have been meditating for hours, but it was nice. It was always worth it, especially when he's had so much on his mind. But right now he had one.
I guess that's what I mean. The punctuation is pertinent, and it just doesn't do. Voice texting doesn't do. that great of punctuation unless you make it do so. So he quickly understood how his father could love his mother so much to go against the Jedi code. To have a secret marriage and children for the sake of love was something that he often found himself thinking about. This just doesn't make sense in my mind. Like it does, but it just sounds so off. He quickly understood how his father Luke quickly grew to understand how his father could love his mother so much to go against the Jedi code. To go against the Jedi code, to have a secret marriage and children for the sake of love. I'm just getting rid of that entire sentence right there. Because Luke quickly grew to understand how his father could love his mother so much to be willing to go against the Jedi code just to make a secret marriage work. Just to make a secret marriage and children just to start a secret family? Of course, his actions were not for the sake of love, but the illusion of losing it all, which was something that Luke often found himself thinking about. about his sister, about how he and his sister came as a byproduct of such love, but so too did the terrorizing reign of the Empire. Luke could never solely blame his father for the fall of the Jedi and the establishment of the Empire. Even though there we go. Luke quickly grew to understand just how his father could love his mother so much to be willing to go against the Jedi Code just to start a secret family. Of course, his actions were not for the sake of love itself, but the illusion of losing it all, which was something that Luke often found himself thinking about. The way that he and his sister came as a byproduct of that same love, but not illusion, fear. But so too did the terrorizing reign of the Empire. I don't know why he keeps autoing there.
And as he opened his eyes, the brightness of the high sun blinded him, and he had to raise his hand to block the light while he gingerly stood up to his feet. He must have been meditating for hours, but it was nice. It was always worth it, especially when he's had so much on his mind.
must have been meditating for hours, but it was always worth it, especially when he's had so much on his mind.
Mind. But right now he had one niggling worry that had caused him a gray hair or two, a festering problem that had been aching in not just his mind but in his heart too. Most of his students were experiencing something that at one point in time every being goes through: homesickness. He understood that the glaring issue was a
What up, D-Void? How you doing? I need to go get some ice water. I will be right back. Like 2 minutes.
Je te laisserai des mots en dessous de ta porte, en dessous de la mur qui chante, tout près de la place où tes pieds passent, cachés dans les trous dans ton divan. Et quand tu es seul pendant un instant, ramasse-moi. Quand tu voudras, ramasse-moi. Quand tu voudras, ramasse-moi. Quand tu voudras.
We are back, Ski. Going to pop onto the Guo Guo. Gotta do some raid, gotta do my fleet climb. Boy, are you coming through?